Trixie, getting back on her hooves, Chapter 10, Checkmate, Part 2, Part 3?
I don't know.
Yeah, me either. Anyways, critical move. Here we go.
It's the next part.
Applejack pulled on the rope of the curtains as a test, causing Checker and helping Hoof to cover their ears at the loud squeaking of the pulleys.
What the hay was that? I mean, those pulleys are certainly noisy.
Yep, they most certainly are.
Applejack added,
Miss-
completely truthfully.
Miss Monarch!
Called Pinkie Pie, hopping over.
Fluttershy wants to talk to you about the birds.
Hey, what happened to your Pinkie voice?
Oh, right. I forgot. Fluttershy wants to talk to you about the birds.
Checker raised
forgot.
Checker raised an annoyed eyebrow.
Coming.
She said, following the pink pony off stage, helping Hoof and Toe. After she walked away, Applejack closed the curtains and climbed up on a ladder to oil the pulleys.
Now, what is this about birds?
Checker asked, looking at Fluttershy from behind her sunglasses.
I thought you might want to hear the birds. If that's all right.
Fluttershy replied timidly, hiding behind her mane.
Show me.
Fluttershy fluttered over to her birds and began leading them like an orchestra commander. Applejack tested the curtains again, which now barely made any noise, and from where Pinkie Pie stood, they couldn't be heard at all over the birds. When she stood nearby and gave a nod, she peeked out and looked up carefully, seeing Rainbow Dash and Chirpy moving the presently calm storm clouds in such a way that light didn't shine directly on the stage through the curtain when they were open. The three nodded subtly to one another and snuck off.
Everything's ready, Twilight.
Pinkie reported to Twilight, who hid in a bush nearby with Trixie.
And the diamond dogs?
Asked Trixie, carefully, not poking her head out.
Rhodey is taking care of them as we speak.
Pinkie Pie continued. Twilight nodded.
All right. Thank you, Pinkie Pie.
Pinkie gave a salute and sucked into a bush, causing Twilight and Trixie to blink as they then peeked in and found her gone. Twilight turned to Trixie.
You ready, Trixie?
As Trixie will ever be. Twilight.
Called a hushed voice. A white stallion with a blue mane with lighter blue stripes walked over slowly, keeping an eye out.
BBBFF!
Twilight replied, keeping her voice hushed, but hugging the stallion. Trixie blinked, raising an eyebrow.
BBBFF?
Beep, beep.
Oh, wait,
That was Trixie.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
BBBFF.
Big brother, best friend forever.
Oh.
Twilight smiled, but kept an eye out for anyone who might throw a wrench in the works.
This is my big brother, Shining Armor. He's the one I sent the letter to last night.
Trixie nodded, though looked a little envious.
Trixie's glad to meet you, Shining Armor.
Shining Armor gave a smile and a nod.
Same here. It's good to meet another of Twilight's friends.
Trixie nodded.
Trixie is pleased to be her friend. Your little sister is one of the kindest mares she ever met.
The captain of the Royal Guard smiled and put a hoof on Twilight's shoulder.
I know.
Trixie once more looked a little jealous as Twilight smiled back but shook it off.
Not to sound rude, but why exactly did you summon your older brother, Twilight?
Twilight smiled.
We needed someone high up in Equestria to see this in order for this to work. Shining Armor is the captain of the Royal Guard, and now officially a prince since he married Princess Cadence. I'd have called the princesses, but they're all on a diplomatic visit to the Griffin Kingdom today.
Trixie's jaw dropped.
You called in the captain of the Royal Guard?
Twilight shushed Trixie and looked around. No one had noticed. She didn't give a smile to Trixie.
When it comes to my friends being in trouble, I don't mess around. All right, girls, let's get in position.
Shiny Armor said seriously. He then smiled to his sister.
We'll catch up later.
He said, trotting off carefully. Trixie once more looked jealous, causing Twilight to frown. She didn't need to guess to understand.
Trixie, for what it's worth, I might not be your biological sister, but I'm proud you think of me as one.
Trixie suddenly felt quite foolish. She didn't say a word, merely hugged Twilight before they commenced the plan.
Thanks for the ride, boys,
said Helena, stepping out of the chariot and floating them a few bits. She then peeked over to the assembled crowd.
What's this?
She saw Checker's chariot sitting nearby, chauffeurs waiting to be needed.
Checker? Well, isn't that a surprise?
She stated, taking a place in the crowd.
Both my granddaughters in one place.
She said, and looked a little sad.
I wonder if Checker is doing all right.
She muttered, knowing Checker had been headed down the wrong path last time they'd seen each other. Checker was applying a little makeup in a mirror, giving a deranged smirk, letting her mask crack for a moment.
Almost showtime.
She stated, turning and walking over to the main backstage area, noticing everyone had cleared out, but helping Hoof probably to go wait for the presentation to start. She peeked out from behind the curtain, seeing the board of directors watching. She smirked and trotted back to get ready.
Checkmate.
Trixie?
Helping Hoof asked as he spun around in shock. Checker blinked, turning and seeing Trixie standing not that far away, dripping wet and covered in mud, shivering and generally looking like she'd gone through hay. Her legs quaked, and she panted heavily. Checker narrowed her eyes.
Why, hello there.
Checker replied, strangely unsurprised.
Let me just turn off the microphone so we can talk properly.
She said, her face becoming motionless as she pulled the microphone off and shut it off, then crushed it on her hoof, causing Trixie to give a gasp.
I can be so clumsy sometimes.
Checker looked over at the microphones and made sure they were all shut off before walking over to Trixie. She telekinetically pulled Trixie's mane and tail straight, revealing a similar microphone kept under her mane, which was shut off and crushed.
Seriously, no, Trixie. Did you really expect me not to see that coming?
She does have a point there. Trixie now looked genuinely scared, and she wasn't acting.
How did you... I may have dropped you in the middle of nowhere. Did you really honestly think I would not consider the possibility you would not stay there? Why do you think I kept the Diamond Dogs hired?
She asked, looking around and making sure no one was there but her and Helping Hoof. She then gave an unhinged smirk.
Such an obvious move, Trixie. Come here, steal a microphone and get me to talk about my plan while it's broadcast to the world. Please, that's so predictable.
Helping Hoof slowly peeked over at the microphone on the table, then back to Trixie and Checker, a conflicted and guilt-ridden look in his eye. What should he do?
If that's all that matters to you, then maybe Checker was right. Maybe you are weak.
Helping Hoof looked back at his fake cutie mark, then back to the scene before him. The frightened look on Trixie's face after all that had happened to her. She still hadn't given up. She'd come all this way to try and stop Checker. A determined look formed on his face.
You see, Trixie, dear.
Checker said, taking out her chessboard.
Chess is about being 3 moves ahead of your opponent. You tried to be 1 move ahead of me, and I was already 2 ahead of you. Simple as that, really.
As Checker looked to her chessboard, Helping Hoof walked up and looked at Trixie, who met his gaze. He winked at her and carefully opened his vest to reveal a microphone hidden there, activation light on. Trixie gave a hidden smirk as Helping Hoof covered the microphone before Checker saw it. She returned acting terrified as her sister's gaze returned to her, but still she felt a tug in her heart.
Checker, please, let's just stop this. You leave me alone, I leave you alone. We're sisters. Isn't that how it should be?
Trixie asked, actually being genuine. Truth be told, she did not want to give her sister... she did want to give her sister one last chance to turn back. She may have been a monster and had to be stopped, but they were still blood.
Please, let's just end this and go our separate ways.
Checker just laughed.
You are in no position to tell me that. Now your options are simple. You can go with plan B. Go out there and tell them how rotten your mean big sister is. Here we go.
Said Spike, Skulu nodding, pressing the correct button.
Go out and tell the world Checkered Monarch's big plan to ruin 6 perfectly innocent mares' lives.
Let's see. Checker voice said over the speakers outside. Pinky hushed the crowd before they could explain their shock. Shiny armor motioned some guards come to his side and don his purple royal guard armor.
And then I act the part of the wounded mare who's been accused of such horrible things on false grounds. Because guess what, Trixie? You don't have any evidence. You're 100% right above me. Right about me, but who's going to believe a filthy homeless mare over the most powerful mare in Manhattan?
Diamond Tiara blinked as the words reached her ears.
Miss Monarch?
The filly asked.
What's going on here?
She asked, though something about what Checker said, it made her feel strange, kind of sick.
Guess what, little sister? Your wonderful friends will vouch for you, of course, but I will just make sure they go down with you. I will still ruin them, no matter what you do. Those who help the weak fall with them. That is just how the world works. Little sister?
Diamond muttered, eyes shrinking to pinpricks. She looked up at her parents' dentist silver spoon. The thought of doing something like that to them, it made her sick.
Checker, how can you do this to your own sister?
Trixie's voice demanded, sounding rather hurt and broken. Checker gave a demented chuckle.
My sister, do you think that really matters? You don't get it, do you? The strong rule the weak. I can manipulate every pony else as easy as breathing. That means I'm the strongest. That means you and every pony else the weak. And that means you are all just pawns to do with as I please whenever I feel like it. Still doesn't explain why you've done this to me, Checker. It's simple, really. Ever since you were born, the spotlight has been split between you and me. And I've always had to share it with you. And guess what, Trixie? I don't share.
Diamond listened and suddenly felt like she was gonna throw up. A bully? Yes, and proud of it. But she still loved her father and her mother, even if she hadn't been there for all that much recently. The thought of doing something like this to any of them, or even to Silver Spoon, who could do that to their own family, and why did it make her feel so bad to hear?
Good job. You really are a lot like I was when I was a kid. Keep up the good work. Someday you may just be like me. Just like her?
Diamond muttered, fear filling her face as it sunk in. Her mother noticed her daughter's fear and gave her a comforting nuzzle. Helena gasped as she heard the words, feeling like a knife to the heart. No, two of them, one for Trixie's suffering and one for Checker being the one that caused it.
Checker? I knew you weren't the nicest pony, but...
She muttered, a tear ran down her face.
How could you do that to Trixie?
She then heard something and looked to Checker's chauffeurs, who seemed panicked. She crept over towards them suspiciously, listening closely.
Oh, this isn't good.
Oh.
Checker's busted. We've got to get out of here.
Yelled at one of them, looking panicked.
Relax, what did we do? Pretend you didn't know anything.
Another replied coolly.
But they're going to believe Trixie. We're accessories to a kidnapping, and we don't have the excuse of being her favorite pawn like Helping Hoof. They're not going to let us off the hook. He's right. Let's bail. Oh, go ahead.
Yet another replied.
Let's bail. He who fights and runs away lives to fight another day. You aren't going anywhere.
Helena stated, trotting up to them, glaring straight through them.
Stay out of this, old lady. This doesn't have anything to do with you. I'm not an old lady.
Helena replied, giving them a glare rivaling the stare of his intensity.
I'm a grandmother, and you just admitted to knowingly hurting my granddaughter.
And my friends?
Trixie asked, crocodile tears flowing, but convincing enough.
Why are you ruining them? Because they didn't like following my strategy. They decided they weren't going to be the good little pawns and go according to my plan. No pony was ever supposed to like you. That isn't how I wanted it.
Checker yelled, taking off her glasses and glaring at Trixie, who did her best to avoid eye contact, but was forced to look and struggled to remain composed. Checker looked away to check if anyone was watching while she did that. Trixie subtly moved pieces on her board as she recovered on Checker's side. Trixie moved a pawn to d4, Trixie's knight moving to f6. Sure, it wasn't necessary, but Trixie liked the irony and drama of it.
I don't care what you want, Checker.
Trixie growled. Arr.
I want to have friends.
Checker growled, glaring daggers at Trixie, making her heart skip a beat.
What you want doesn't matter. So now you know what? Forget the options. Rover, Spot, Fido.
Checker called the three diamond dogs, dashing up and grabbing Trixie's shoulders. Trixie struggled, but the moment Checker took her eyes off Trixie to do another check for anyone watching, Trixie moved the board again, and the diamond dogs merely pretended not to see. Checker's knight then moved to d2. Trixie played with pawn to e5. Checker's pawn took Trixie's pawn.
You don't get a choice. You don't get a choice. You're going to be dragged off to their mind to turn into their personal slave. I'll come to pay them to let you see the sun. Just long enough to see your friends' houses torn down. After you brutally ruin their lives?
Trixie asked, glaring daggers at her sister. The birds started singing. Checker gave an insane smile.
Exactly, and I will make sure to give you a status report on that frequently. It's just about showtime, so little sister. Any last words before I give the order?
Trixie suddenly gave a smirk.
Just one.
The showmare said, motioning her with her eyes to the chessboard as she moved her knight to g4. Checker's pawn moved to h3 in response. Checker looked at the chessboard and gasped as she saw the pieces positioning. Something seemed strangely familiar about it. Trixie moved her knight to e3, seamlessly checking Checker's queen, so one of Checker's pawns took the knight in defense, leaving her open to Trixie's queen move to h4 for check. Checker's side replied with the only move possible response. Pawn to g3, the queen took the pawn, leaving the king trapped, and then hit Checker where she'd seen it before.
So, going after my queen?
Asked Check with a chuckle, taking the knight. Trixie smirked and moved her queen to h4.
Check.
Checker's eyes widened. She moved pawn to g3, looking on in disbelief. Trixie's queen took the pawn.
Checkmate.
Trixie said with a smirk, her horn glowing and a magic costume peeling off, revealing her good as new underneath it, though still soaked. Suddenly, a spotlight fell on Checker, causing her to turn and see a hole in the clouds created by Ramdash, letting a pillar of sunlight down on her, the audience staring at her in disgust and shock. Checker could only watch the crowd in complete shock, eyes as big as dinner plates as boos were sent her way. The board directors rose up and looked down in disgust before walking away. Shiny Armor stepped forward, flanked by several royal guards, narrowing his eyes at her. Checker took a few steps backward in disbelief.
What? No.
Pinky chuckled, walking up to the stage.
Oh, here comes my favorite part.
She whispered to Rarity, who was watching with her. Pinky then mouthed a big
No.
No.
Checker yelled before being blinded by camera flashes, including those from Featherweight sitting in front row. She looked at the Diamond Dogs, who released Trixie and stood glaring at her while Trixie shook the water from her coat.
What? You're helping them?
That's the thing about hired guns, Miss Monarch.
Rarity said as she stepped up on the stage, taking off a pair of saddlebags and throwing them to Rover, who checked inside to find them full of valuable gems.
They're loyal to money, not to clients. But how could you outbid me?
Griffins have a saying, darling.
Said the fashionista, giving a smirk.
Give a griffin a fish, feed him for a day. Feed a griffin a fish for a lifetime. Or, in this case, offer a diamond dog a single huge batch of gems, sate him for a bit, offer them a long-term mutually beneficial agreement, sate him for a lifetime.
That and Checker, they might not have been observant enough to see it on your model.
Trixie said as Twilight, Applejack, Fluttershy, and Ramdash joined the group in backing up Trixie and stopping Checker from fleeing.
Trixie finally realized why the location of your new mall seemed familiar once her friends pointed it out. It was right on top of their mind.
And Diamond Dogs not like mean pawning.
Rover announced, glaring snarling at Checker.
Diamond Dogs quit.
Checker slowly opened up her chessboard with wide eyes, desperately trying to figure out what went wrong.
But how did you just... but I destroyed the microphones. How did you broadcast me?
Twilight blinked in confusion.
I actually don't know. I didn't even know the microphones got destroyed.
Helping Hope stepped forward, walking over to Trixie's side and opening his vest to reveal the microphone. Checker, sorry. Checker backpedaled in surprise and snarled in fury.
I control you. You can't betray me.
Correction. You used to control me, and I'm sick and tired of it.
Helping Hope replied,
I'm sick of being under every pony's hooves. I'm sick of helping you hurt innocent ponies. And you know what else?
Checker snarled in a infernal manner.
You're fired.
I'm not fired. I quit.
Helping Hoof interrupted, glaring at her. He tore off his fake key mark and threw it in her face. Helping Hoof panted and smiled.
That actually felt good.
Checker snarled and snorted in rage, leaping at Helping Hoof like a tiger going for the kill, only for Trixie to teleport the two of them out of her path, causing Checker to slam face first into the storage crate. Twilight smiled as Trixie looked to Helping Hoof proudly once they got up from landing upside down. Off the teleport, though, she could tell Trixie was still a bit out of it from the teleport.
Royal guards, arrest that mare.
Ordered Mare Mare from the audience, looking quite furious off. Shiny Armor nodded and approached with guards alongside them.
Checker Monarch, you're under arrest. Come quietly and make it easier for yourself.
Checker got back to her host and looked at her chessboard, snarling in rage as she tried to figure out a plan. But it was her turn not to have one to save herself. But one with another outcome began to form.
No, not yet. This isn't over yet.
She muttered to herself, her telekinetic grasp causing the small box the board was projected from to begin cracking. Yeah.
This isn't over.
The madmare stated. Her chessboard broke apart even further. Her voice lost all refinement, reverting slowly to her more high-pitched tone.
It isn't over.
Checker yelled, shattering her chessboard completely, horn glowing brightly, more and more magic pouring into it. Trixie gasped, staggering back.
Checker, what are you doing? I'm not losing. I refuse to lose.
Checker yelled, pouring more magic into it. A beam of magic shot off her horn, surrounding each of the group for a brief moment before she smirked and began powering up more. Ramdash shook her head, a little disorientated.
Oh, what was that?
Twilight shook her head as well.
I don't know. It felt like mind magic.
She muttered and looked at the mare's horn, the massive amount of power she was pouring into it, and gasped as she realized what was happening.
Checker, you're overstressing your horn. Stop it before you hurt yourself.
Shining Armor gasped at the sight.
Twily, get out of there!
He yelled, galloping towards the stage. Trixie instinctively put herself in front of Helping Hoof. Twilight tried to raise his shield, but was too disoriented to do so.
I don't care if we all lose, then I win.
Checker yelled, a completely deranged look on her face.
Here's where the nightmare really starts.
She screamed, giving an insane laugh before a massive flash of light went off and everything went black. To be continued. Cue cheery ending theme. Do 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 do. Oh
Surprised you didn't go with the
wow!
chicken dance.
Oh sorry. Dun, 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 dun.
It's like one of the few times where that would actually be super appropriate.